Well, it's that time of year again. It might be the middle of winter. We might be wearing jackets. There might be snow on the ground, but folks are busting out their boats to head out on the river to catch some chunky wintertime walleyes. And in this video, we're gonna be hopping in the boat with Michael Showalter, and we're gonna share a few tips that'll help you get on a river bite this winter.
We're out here on the Mississippi River, catching some wintertime walleyes. Man, it sure is nice to get away from the ice for a little while and hop in the boat, only to come catch some of these. We've had an awesome day out here. What do you say? We've got 15, 20 fish so far. It's been a great day. We're looking for a lot bigger than that. It might just happen. Out here fishing on the Mississippi River walleye with the new Northland jigs. Can't ask for much better. We just had another miss and they're biting. We better get this fish back in the water before her fins freeze. Away she goes. Awesome. Now I know this isn't a super big fish, but I will give you a helpful tip here. When you're fishing in this current, it is best just to reel the fish. Don't pump the rod, because what happens when you pump the rod, it creates a bow in your line and it'll actually create slack. So it's crucial to just slowly reel the fish in, and you will catch a lot more fish and keep a lot more fish pegged. Nice eater walleye. Back in the drink he goes. Let's keep fishing.
Now, anytime you're chasing walleyes in the river, this time of year especially, there's a bunch of different baits that could come into play, but no matter what, jigs are always gonna be a really big player. And this crew was fishing with two baits in particular that they had a lot of success with. Number one was Northland's new Tungsten jig, and number two was the MVP jig. And for me, I've used the MVP jig a lot. I've used both those jigs a lot, but where the MVP jig really shines for me is these river fishing situations. Anytime you want to use like a bulkier plastic, it's got the right hook. But I'm gonna let those guys talk a little bit more about why the MVP jig is really good in these situations.
So this MVP jig was really designed with the plastics fishermen in mind. It does have a long shank on it. It is great for big minnows in situations like this, but truly designed for fishing some of these bigger, bulkier plastics. The bend and the gap in this MVP jig with that Big River Gamakatsu hook is perfect for what we're doing today. So you can see the hook point is directly in line with that eye. So all the pressure that you put on the fish on the hook set is just going to drive that hook home into the fish's mouth. And this bend right here, this is the tactical bend that makes that hook such a big deal. It really pins the fish. Once you get them hooked in the corner of the mouth or the roof, it's that technical bend right there that keeps that fish pinned all the way back to the boat.
Nice fish there, Mike.
Thanks, boss.
No problem at all.
So that is the end result of the idea behind this Big River hook design and the MVP jig. So you see how that hook is buried perfectly right in the corner of that mouth, and that hook bend, that tactical bend in the Big River hook is what keeps those fish pinned. So that was at the very end of my cast. Light braid, light line, in a stiff hook set, that's what keeps a fish like that pinned. So not a giant or world beater by any means, but a heck of a good fish, on a piece of plastic with the MVP jig. Many more to come here on a gorgeous day in January. He liked it.
Usually a netter?
I'll swing him in. It's two in a row on mean green. I started with blue and white, and then switched to this green color, which has always been a great color on the river. Fatty. That's the best part about fishing down here is they don't have to be big and long to have a whole bunch of weight to them on this river system. Again, that hook was buried right in the corner of his mouth. I'm telling you, that bend on that Big River hook is 100% legit. So there's a lot of definition to the jig itself. It's a customized shape. This isn't like another jig that you're going to find on the market. It's got really lifelike features, 3D eyes, and the best hook on the market in Gamakatsu. Nice fish.
So that's a little rundown on the MVP jig. Now they're gonna break down the other jig that they were using and having a lot of success with. And this particular jig happens to be my new favorite jig. It's just super effective, not only for river fishing, and it has obvious applications there, but also lake fishing, whether it's winter, spring, summer, or fall.
Mike just had one on. He just released his fish, and I pitched my jig out there, and as it hits bottom, I close the bail, and there's the fish.
Seconds away from a double.
Seconds. Now I will talk about this new tungsten jig, the live bait jig that Northland came out with. The profile of that jig there, it's a narrow profile, so it cuts current a lot better than your typical lead head jig. Same with the tungsten too, it's heavier, more bang for your buck. It has that double barb system. And the thing is with tungsten, with those barbs, with your typical lead jig, those barbs will round over time. And tungsten will not. Now, the thing is with this tungsten jig, you can slide your minnow up onto that jig over that barb, and it locks that minnow in place. Much harder for that fish to pull that bait off of the hook, and same thing with plastics.
Really interesting that there's kind of that common misconception when you're out here on a river that you're going to come out here and you're going to lose a ton of jigs, and it really just isn't the case. You know, what we're doing here and throwing at these current seams, it's really soft bottom, and the fish are just stacking up on like the slack water side of it, and that's where they're setting up to feed. So what we're really doing with a premium jig like this that cuts the water the way it does, and running this through the braided line on your rod, is just keeping that relationship between the feel of your jig, which is enhanced because the tungsten is so hard, and then the braided line as it runs through the guides really creates like a constant feel and allows you to present the bait better in that seam. And you know, you're not going to have to worry about busting off 100 jigs while you're doing this, because you are feeling the bottom so well. You're not sacrificing feel because of a bow in your line and the softness of the lead. It allows you to have a better relationship with your jig and the bottom, and I think that's kind of an undersold portion of this this deal. Everybody wants to talk about the hardness and you know, how much smaller the bait is versus lead, but really that feel and having that relationship between your braided line and the jig at the end of it is so important in a river fishing situation like this.
I don't think that I necessarily need to say how bad of a winter it's been for ice fishing for a bunch of different people. There's been certain areas where there's been plenty of ice and there haven't been issues, but there's a lot of parts across the ice belt where ice fishing has just sucked, or it just hasn't been an option. So I know a bunch of you are just chomping at the bit to bust out the boats, jig up some walleyes, and it feels like we're starting to sneak into that range right now. Even if we've had some colder temperatures recently, there's going to be some warm stuff ahead, and I know that a bunch of you are going to be out on the river jigging. So let's wrap this video up with a few more hook sets.
Little bugger, another one on the plastic though. I would say that this beats sitting at my desk 10 times out of 10. And I don't know what the rest of the day is going to kind of hold for us, but we have had a ton of fun. Michael's shown us a great time. There are not that many people, unless you're a river rat, that keep their boat you know, ready to roll at a moment's notice like he does. So it's been super fun to come out here and get to do this today. We caught fish on that tungsten short shank tipped with the minnow, and then I did all my damage today with MVP jig with a piece of plastic on it. So like I said, maybe we're gonna get that one kicker bite here before dark. It's hard to say, but you know, 18-20 fish day in the middle of January, I'll take it every time. How's that one feel?
Feels like a nicer fish. I wouldn't say a monster, but I'd say right around that 18 to 20 inches. Time will only tell. Well, he's feeling a little bit bigger now. Hard to tell when they're in that current.
Well, we got all the time in the world.
Oh yeah, for sure. Starting to pick up though. It's a good sign.
Yeah, it was great as soon as we got here.
Slow
You had
down a
first
little bit.
cast.
Yep.
First cast for Jim, like third cast for me, like they just bit.
Wow, we inhaled that tungsten jig.
Yeah, you did.
Awesome fish. Man, they're fat. About a 20 incher and he is a solid 3 pounds.
They pack on the pounds down here, don't they?
They do. A system full of shad, a belly full of shad, and pre-spawn. Beautiful
fish.
walleye. So let's get her back.
Refused to give us a lull in the action. I'll just swing this one, man.
Okay.
He's not a world beater. But man, you can't ask for more in January. It's a great day on the river. Got my line frozen up. Pinned it to the bottom. Got him on the bottom side of the jaw. At the very end of my cast, of course. Man. It's interesting, like the split today, it's like you guys have got a few more fish than I have on minnows.
Yep.
But they're eating that paddle tail and that MVP head, you know, just the same. I think we got 3 guys in the boat.
They commit to that paddle tail. They're not just nibbling at it.
There is no nibble here. Yeah, you basically, you set the hook, they hit it hard. What an awesome bite. Killer day. Well, I think that's the end of our day. Michael called 5-minute warning, and on cue, of course, we got a bite immediately to finish out our day. I think last year when we were putting the final touches on these products, we knew we had a couple winners. The MVP, you know, with these plastics, you know, that hook gap, that big river hook, and the bigger minnows was going to be a winner. And I mean, that short shank tungsten jig, you know, Jim and Michael both absolutely wore them out today, you know, just with the most simple presentation that there is on the river. Fathead minnow. Combination of those two things in a 30-degree day in the middle end of January made for an awesome experience. So more to come. Michael says he doesn't have that much on his calendar between now and the end of March, so I can promise you we'll probably be back out here with him at some point soon.
Well, that's about all we got for you in this video. Special thanks to Michael for taking some time, putting some walleyes on video with us. And if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, make sure to hit that little red subscribe button down below, because we have a lot more content coming in the future. And until then, we will see you in the next one.